According to Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, Mrs. Roberts-Risden, the press is seeking to sow a seed of discord and chaos in the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. In her opening remarks at the meeting of the Public Accounts Committee, the Ministry's accounting officer charged that there had been much discussion, stories, and mistruths surrounding the state of affairs within the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. There have been many negative comments about my character and integrity, the staff, and the ministry in general. According to Mrs. Roberts-Risden, there were some who seemed determined to make their names at the expense of others, whilst trying to sow a seed of discord and chaos. The Permanent Secretary accused one publication of misleading the public by stating that $49 billion was misappropriated at the ministry. However, in a January 17, 2001 article, it was reported that poor decisions at dozens of government departments have exposed more than $40 billion of taxpayers' money to loss, misuse, and analysis of the last two Auditor General and annual reports have indicated same. The Permanent Secretary then declared, but I guess when they realized that figure was ridiculous, it was changed to $3.3 billion. I could not figure out where this $3.3 billion figure was coming from, but one of my very capable staff figured it out and said that, P.S., this amount of $2.95 billion relates to an outstanding NIS contribution that was owed from employers in 2014 to 2015. In seeking to account for the $3.3 billion, Mrs. Roberts-Risden told the PSC members that $123.5 million relates to journal vouchers that were prepared late, $173.42 million relates to expenditure adjustment journals, while $40 million and $36 million, respectively, is in relation to amounts that were used to pay the salaries of staff in 2016 and in 2017. Additionally, Mrs. Roberts-Risden mentioned a $5.99 million, which was in relation to bank charges, some of which she claimed were erroneously applied and had since been reversed. She also said $5.3 million is in relation to unreconciled amounts that they are in discussions with the Auditor General and are trying to resolve same. She further emphasized that there was no $3.3 billion that is missing at the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. She says that the Auditor General's Department's annual report, which was tabled in Parliament recently, highlighted a pattern of unresponsiveness to internal audits by the management of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. Based on past reports, poor decisions at dozens of government departments have exposed more than $40 billion of taxpayers' money to loss or misuse. This was based on an analysis of the last two Auditor General's annual reports. And with the Ministry of Labour and Social Security emerging as the poster case of the cost of almost willful failure to implement corrective measures, there was an urgent call for Parliament to do more than just talk when its key committees made recommendations to improve the administration of public resources. Based on the analyses coming out of that report, inefficient controls at the ministries and other agencies have exposed taxpayers' funds to misuse and even possibly serious outside influence. Based on the presentation to the House of Representatives by the Auditor General's Department, using their report for 2019 to 2020 financial year, it showed that there were 44 audits that focused on 20 government ministries or offices. Auditor General's Monroe Ellis's findings centered around billions at risk in areas of procurement, resource and project management, along with governance. Very few entities, such as the Kamina Johnson-Smith-led Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, received a clean bill of health, as the 2020 report lamented the troubling breakdown of internal controls in government departments. Nowhere was the picture more stark than in the MLSS, which the Auditor General argued has been persistent in ignoring recommendations over the years to improve its stewardship of public funds. The ministry alone accounted for the exposure of unresolved monetary risk of $3.3 billion. Recurring issues of established guidelines undermines the transparency and accountability in financial management. This is what was emphasized by the Auditor General in an instance where the ministry failed to seek approval for the reallocation of monies to pay excess expenditure for the period 2016 to 2018. In another instance, transactions amounting to $173 million could not be verified, along with more than $36 billion in recurrent and capital funds since 2018. Then, of course, there was what appears to be the ministry's disregard for its own internal audit reports and recommendations based on the review of those done between March 2017 and December 2019. Since 2011, Derek Kelly, Dr. Fenton Ferguson, and the late Shiny Robinson, and for a few months, Mike Henry, presided over the ministry, which was responsible for some of the most vulnerable populations in the country. That includes pensioners and some of Jamaica's poorest citizens. Well, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and let me know what you think about these issues in relation to the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. According to the Permanent Secretary, the $3.3 billion is not missing. Now, what is your opinion based on the reports that have been given up to this time? How is it that she is now being made aware of where all of these monies were previously allocated? Well, thanks for watching and goodbye.